Red and Blue with only a Zubat was a surprisingly fun challenge, and my very first time attempting one of these. Though difficult, it was definitely manageable in the end. This, however, I'm not so sure. Today we're going to see if we can beat the definitive Generation 3 game Pokemon Emerald with just a Feebas. Yep, a Feebas. If you thought Zubat was bad, oh boy. Let's go over the rules we'll be playing by. Number 1, we can obviously only use Feebas in battle. We will need Pokemon to perform some HM moves for us, so they can be in our party but cannot be sent into battle under any circumstances. And that even includes switching them in and out to rid Feebas of confusion or restore its accuracy. Since we're playing in Gen 3, the only exception here is double battles that require you to have 2 Pokemon, in which case I'll use a super weak HM slave and use non-attacking moves. Second, we can't use any glitches, cheats, or exploits. The only exception to this rule is of course changing our starter Pokemon to a beautiful level 5 Feebas. Rule number 3 is a tricky one. Starting at the first gym, you'll see why, we can only use healing items that we actually find on the ground, meaning we can't buy healing items from the Pokemart and we can't use any items on Feebas during actual battles aside from its held item, meaning no potions, X-Attack, etc. I have no idea if this run is even remotely possible, but hey, why not make it as challenging as possible? Smart. With that being said, let's look at what kind of Pokemon we're working with. Judging by total base stats, Feebas is the 11th worst Pokemon out of all nearly 900 existing Pokemon, and in Gen 3, it's the 4th worst after Azurill, Wurmple, and Ralts. It's tied for having the single worst special attack stat out of all nearly 900 Pokemon, and has the worst attack and defense in all of Gen 3. Dealing damage is going to be tough. Its HP is also the worst in Gen 3, only after Shedinja. Yeah, you know, the Pokemon with 1 HP. Feebas is in the erratic group for experience gain, meaning it levels up the slowest out of any Pokemon in earlier levels. But then as you increase levels, it gets closer and closer to being normal. Because of this, leveling Feebas from level 69 to 70 actually requires less experience points than going from 99 to 100. God, this thing is strange. Feebas's move pool is, interesting. It can only learn 3 moves by level up: Splash, Tackle, and Flail. However, its TM move pool isn't terrible. It can get Water Pulse, Toxic, Ice Beam, Rain Dance, Return, Double Team, Surf, and Waterfall. I'm not really sure what we're going to use at this point, but although Toxic seems like a good idea, Feebas's bulk is so terrible that it likely won't be able to Toxic Stall very effectively, if we can even find the TM. We'll see what happens. Now that we know just how terrible our Pokemon is, let's begin the challenge. We of course begin the game as a trainer from Johto who's been shoved in the back of a moving truck on his way to Hoenn with a bunch of loose, heavy boxes. Johto parenting at its finest. I immediately pick up the secret potion from our room's PC because we'll need it. I'd almost go as far as to say that without this single potion, this run might be impossible. Upon picking our starter Pokemon from Professor Birch, we of course choose our trusty Feebas, who is not supposed to be here. We're supposed to be saving Birch, but unfortunately at this point, Feebas only knows Splash, so, sorry my dude. But miraculously, without us inflicting any damage whatsoever, the Zigzagoon decides to flee and we save the day by being absolutely useless. Story of my life. It's female, so we nickname our Feebas Karen, since, I mean, come on. We make it to Oldale Town and heal up immediately. We can get a second potion from this mart guy here, and we head into the mart to spend all our money on potions. In Emerald, you start the game off with 3,000 Pokédollars, so we're able to get 10 more, bringing our total to 12 potions. Now you might be asking why it's necessary to get so many potions. Well, since Feebas only has Splash, we can't possibly deal any damage to anything, unless we use all 40 of Splash's power points so that Feebas can then use Struggle, a 50 base power normal type move that deals 1/4 of the damage dealt in recoil damage. Since the only way we can keep Splash's power points at 0 is to avoid going to the Pokemon Center, we can only heal any damage, including our own recoil damage, by using potions. This essentially makes this challenge run like a single Pokemon Nuzlocke until we get to level 15 and can learn Tackle, since if we get KO'd, we won't have enough potions to be able to use 40 moves to start dealing damage with Struggle again. Now as far as I can tell, the best Pokemon to waste our PP against is Wurmple, since it often uses String Shot and its tackle attacks are quite weak to begin with. Once we do get to low PP, it's better to flee the battle and then use a potion, since using a potion in the middle of battle would give it a free turn to attack us. And we need to conserve as much HP as possible since we're limited on potions and have 0 money. 3 Wurmples and 2 potions later and we finally start being able to use Struggle. At this point, we can now start damaging wild Pokemon to get some form of experience because we have a terrifying battle against May coming up at the end of the next route. About a dozen Wurmples later and we're down to 6 potions, Karen grows to level 6 and thankfully it gets +1 in its attack stat. Now knowing that May has a level 5 Torchic, I knew we'd have to be at least level 7 and probably have a leftover potion if we hope to even have the slightest chance of defeating her. Unfortunately, it took me 3 attempts of having to start the game over from scratch to even get this thing to level 7, and amazingly enough with 2 potions remaining. Every other time I'd make it to level 7 with no potions and low health, or I'd get KO'd by a crit. Karen doesn't get any attack points this time around, but some extra defensive stats are always nice. I finally decide to challenge May and figure we might as well go in and conserve our potions. It comes down to the absolute wire, and for a split second I excitedly thought, oh my god, we can win this! But like an absolute idiot, I forgot that even after we KO the Torchic, we're still gonna get recoil damage even though we've already technically won. And yep, we lose. After I restart the game yet again, I managed to luckily get Feebas up to level 7 again and have 3/4 health with 1 potion left in the bag. In the rematch with May, everything seems to be going relatively smoothly and looks like it's going to be a close call. But I'm keeping in mind that we only have 1 potion this time. Just when it looks like we might win, her Torchic gets a crit and I'm like, alright, that's it, time to restart again, when suddenly we get a crit as well to take it out. We get 69 experience for winning. I couldn't have written that any better, dear lord. First battle down after 4 hours. We get 300 Pokédollars for winning, which is substantially less than I thought. That means we can buy just 1 potion when we're already at low health, so to be blatantly honest, I have no idea how we're going to get through the rest of this game. Thankfully, back at Birch's lab, May gives us some Pokeballs which I realize we don't need and can therefore sell for some extra cash to buy another potion with 200 Pokédollars remaining. Before making our way to Route 102 on our way back to Petalburg City, I checked Karen's nature and it actually turns out to be Hardy, a neutral nature which I'm actually okay with due to the way that types work in Gen 3. Our stab water moves and any ice moves we may want to use are both based on special attack, but since Feebas doesn't learn many different types of moves, using a normal move like return might actually be a good idea even though it's physical. We of course also need our speed and defenses, so there's nothing that we really want to have a hindering nature for, even though plus special attack would be really nice. On our way to Route 102, I realize we need to be extremely cautious and calculative with any trainer battles. I decide to use one of our potions to heal up and start researching the trainers on the route so I know which ones to avoid if they have something terrifying like Shroomish, and which ones to battle for XP without much risk of getting KO'd. Our first trainer battle is a mandatory one to progress through the route, and it frightens me since his Poochyena starts using Howl to increase its attack. But thankfully, it misses the tackle and uses Howl again before we can take it out. This battle nets us only 80 Pokédollars, so our money and potion situation is not looking great at this point. The next trainer has 2 Wurmple, and due to some great luck and a risky play, I managed to survive with 1 singular HP before I can use our last potion. At this point, I do have enough money to buy another one, but we do have to get through the rest of this route first. I found a few berry trees on this route which I completely forgot about since they can be sold for 10 Pokédollars each, but there's also Oram berries here which restore 10 HP each, which can really come in handy. This is probably the only time I've been so desperate as to eagerly grab berries in a playthrough. I know that this trainer here is the last one we should attempt to battle on this route since the final one has a Shroomish, so I figure we might as well get the XP. I didn't think this battle would be much of a challenge, but Zigzagoon's Growl actually makes our recoil attack quite weak, and I needed to use an Oram berry. Thankfully, we do level up to level 8 and get an extra attack stat, which is very helpful. Now, the final trainer on the route with the Shroomish actually turns around and is very hard to get by, so I cross my fingers and thankfully don't get caught. Or else that would have been the end of the run right there. Man, this is risky. After meeting our dad, gym leader Norman, and our rival Wally, we leave Petalburg City towards Petalburg Woods, which I'm kind of scared about given all the Pokemon that can learn Absorb in there, which is super effective against Feebas. On our way, we find a couple more Oram berries, and I avoid all the trainers leading up to the forest since I recall there being some items in there that we might be able to pick up and sell for more potions. I love me some potions. At the beginning of the woods, I find a potion on the ground and pick up a Pokeball too. The first trainer in the woods has 4 Wurmple, which aren't that bad, however one of them gets a crit, so I do have to use an Oram berry to survive. Looking ahead in the woods, I remember that the Devon Corporation employee is here and that a Team Aqua Grunt appears here as well. According to Bulbapedia, he has a level 9 Poochyena, which is absolutely terrifying at this point, but it is necessary to battle in order to progress through the game. On the way there, I encounter a Cascoon, which makes me realize that they actually might be good for grinding. All they have is Harden, which means I will take 1 HP of recoil damage per each attack, but Cascoon and Silcoon themselves can't hurt me and they will likely give good XP. Upon getting super close to level 9, I realize we have no potions for the Aqua Grunt battle and no money to get one unless I sell my Paralyze heal, which I don't really want to do since we have no way to heal status conditions at the moment. We of course can't use Poke Centers yet. However, I remember there was a fisherman on the beach on Route 104, and that fisherman as a trainer class give more money than bug catchers. Thankfully, he just has a Magikarp, leading to the ultimate duel of the universe between two absolute powerhouse Pokemon. We get some prize money and are now able to buy 2 potions. I beat a wild Marill just to get to level 9, use a potion, and hope to God we're ready to face that Aqua Grunt now. Although his Poochyena using Howl to increase its attack and Sand Attack to lower our accuracy was horrifying, we managed to beat the Grunt using 1 potion. Behind the flower shop, we get quite loaded up on healing items and things to sell. Looking at this route summary, it appears there's actually a rich kid trainer at the start of the route, so I decide to use an Oram Berry to bring our health to full before taking him on in the hopes that there will be lots of prize money. He sends out a level 7 Zigzagoon and I'm like, man, this won't be too bad, but then it repeatedly uses Tail Whip and Growl over and over again until our attack and defense are basically non-existent. So I use an Oram Berry and then he uses a full restore. Damn rich kids and their access to items they have absolutely no need for at such a low level. Thankfully, 1 more potion saves the day and we're able to defeat him, getting a whopping 1,400 Pokédollars in the process. Now on this route, I remembered that there was a double battle on the bridge and I was like, oh god, this is the end. But thankfully, they don't actually stop you to battle unless you have 2 Pokemon. Whew, crisis averted. After defeating 1 more arch-nemesis Magikarp trainer and then getting some prize money, we finally arrive in Rustboro City. After having sold all of my extra items, I came up with 4,300 Pokédollars and I spent 3,000 of it on 10 potions. Realizing how many trainers we've already skipped and how many are accessible before the dreaded Rock-type gym we have to face, I decide to head back to Petalburg Woods to try and grind as much as I possibly can against Cascoons and Silcoons with the potions that I have to try and hit that level 15 mark for Tackle so we can finally end this damn Nuzlocke portion of this challenge run. After hitting level 12, I run out of potions and decide to challenge all the trainers we skipped since I have 2 remaining super potions. And like an idiot, I decide to challenge 2 trainers with Shroomish, which could have very well ended our run since its Effect Spore ability can give us a status condition, but thankfully we get really lucky with crits and after 7 contact moves, we don't get any status conditions. After all that, the second trainer only gives me 96 Pokédollars. Yikes. I go past Rustboro City to clear out the remaining trainers we can access, and at one point I encountered a level 9 Shroomish that paralyzed us, but thankfully I had some cherry berries and we barely survived on 3 HP. I also try my luck against a hiker and surprisingly were able to take down a level 8 Geodude with just struggle, which gives me a tiny sliver of hope for when we have to face gym leader Roxanne. Okay, not really. I've now faced all the trainers that I think we can reliably defeat, and we have 5 to work with in order to grind against Cascoons and Silcoons to try and get us 1 more level to level 15. This is going to be cutting it really close, and the fate of our run pretty much depends on this. With 21 remaining HP and no remaining potions or enough money to buy any more, we make it to level 15 and finally learn Tackle. Yes! We finally have the freedom to die. Okay, upon retrospect, that sounds really weird, but you know what I mean. Now being able to use the Pokemon Center, I decide to take on the remaining trainers that I was too scared to face to score some extra money now that we don't have to deal with recoil damage, and I grind to level 16 where we get 1 more attack stat point. At this point, after hours of grinding, I decide to test our luck against the first gym challenge, the Rustboro City Gym. Given that our only move is Tackle and we're facing a Rock-type gym with a freaking Feebas, I predict this is not going to go over very well. And I was right. An absolute slaughter from this dude's Geodude, I can barely touch it. So I figured I'll do a couple more levels worth of grinding, even though I'm sick to death of grinding at this point, especially after trying to merely get Tackle, which evidently wasn't very much worth it except when it comes to grinding. I try again and it does not work out. Really not wanting to grind anymore, I even tried just skipping the trainers in the gym to go straight for Roxanne, but her Geodude has Rock Tomb and is 2 levels higher. The realization and panic starts to set in that I have to do some serious grinding if this is even to be remotely possible. Keep in mind that we've now lost to several trainers, meaning we've lost all of our money, so even if I wanted to break the rules, I couldn't buy potions to use mid-battle. Hours of grinding later, and I've reached level 26, an obscure number that was basically as much grinding as I could possibly tolerate. Broken down, beaten, and to be quite honest, almost having given up on this challenge right then and there, I decide to head to the gym once more to see what our good friend Karen is now capable of. Surprisingly enough, the first battle goes smoothly. Our attack and defense stats now seem high enough to withstand the onslaught of tackles from the Geodude, but I know that Roxanne's is even better and has Rock Tomb, so I'm very unsure at this point. It turns out I'm dumb and got caught in the crosshairs of both trainers' sight at the same time, so I had to battle 2 consecutively, but we actually managed pretty easily. And now the trainer I've feared the most in this whole challenge so far, Roxanne. Almost immediately, I recognize we're outclassed. Rock Tomb is simply doing more damage to us than Tackle is to Geodude. My only hope here is a crit, but I don't end up getting one, and it turns out Roxanne uses a potion on the Geodude as well. Holy shit, are we ever screwed. Back to grinding we go. But at this point, I put the game away for the day and had a spa night so I could feel refreshed enough to put myself through more hell. Picking the game back up the next day, I begin grinding again in Route 116. While we do require more experience to gain levels, we are now able to reliably OHKO everything in this route, which definitely makes it a slightly less tedious experience. After a few more hours, we get to level 32, which I'm thinking might be sufficient, and Feebas learns Flail along the way, although I'm not sure how useful it will be since its damage varies quite substantially, but perhaps it can come in clutch. After losing this time around, an idea dawns on me. There was a trainer at the end of Route 116 that we couldn't beat earlier but that I forgot to go back for, so I decided to go back and defeat him for some extra experience since I'm desperate at this point. I then realized he was blocking the Rustturf tunnel, which has nothing but Whismurs in it. These things give more XP than Taillow and Poochyena, which are super common on Route 116, so I decide to stay here to grind as much as I can possibly stand. Psychologically speaking, I think I just need different scenery anyway. Once I'm done here at level 35, I make my way to the mart to prepare for my last stand. I also give the Quick Claw to Feebas just in case those speed drops from Rock Tomb do us in. The time has come. Before I challenge, I decide to do more research on Flail to see exactly how much it might be able to help us, and as I do, I remember, wait a minute, the damage from it isn't random, it's actually based on how much HP we have. The lower the HP, the stronger it is. So I go in with a different strategy. From the first Geodude, we miraculously only take 6 HP damage, which was just 1 hit from a Rock Tomb. The second Geodude gives us some trouble, but we win with some HP to spare. After an amazing miss at the end of the nose pass, a final Flail does it with us having just 10 HP left. After my Flail realization, I initially thought I had maybe grinded 5 levels too many, but apparently it was still necessary. We encounter our rival on the way back to Mr. Briney's cottage, and it's actually a super easy battle. Karen is looking damn good at the moment. I then go back to get an HM slave, Zigzagoon, nickname it Butler, and teach it Cut. Upon arriving in Dewford Town, we're given the Silk Scarf, which actually might be really useful since it will raise both the power of Tackle and Flail by 10%. We meet Steven and are able to take on our second gym battle, the Dewford Gym, led by the fighting type trainer Brawley. We defeat all of the gym trainers with relative ease, and I'm beginning to feel the merits of our insane work that we put into Karen. She's pretty much just 1 or 2 hit KOing everything with Tackle now, thanks to the immense grinding and the Silk Scarf. Upon getting to Brawley, I realize our health is fairly low, but I'm like, meh, low health is actually good for Flail, so we can just sweep right through him. I make it through his Machop and Meditite with little issue, and then he sends out a Makuhita. We're at pretty low health, so I go for Flail, and it actually doesn't take him out. He then uses Bulk Up to increase his attack and defense, and then his Citrus Berry activates, and I'm like, I don't think another Flail will take him out. Our invincible strategy has actually failed. Whoops, I guess we should go in with full health next time. It seems I was getting a little bit overconfident, but I have to keep in mind this is a damn Feebas after all. In our second battle, his Machop actually uses Bulk Up and causes us a bit more trouble this time around, bringing us below half anyway. We sweep through the Meditite and have 29 HP going into the Makuhita. We hit it for less than half, meaning its Citrus Berry doesn't activate, and then he uses Vital Throw on us, meaning our flail becomes even more powerful, and thankfully we take it out this time, leaving us with 15 HP, meaning we've officially acquired our second gym badge. That was actually a bit scarier than I thought it would be given our level, and we even had the Silk Scarf for extra damage. We make it to Slateport City, where it turns out Karen actually has max EVs and gets the Effort Ribbon. We just have no idea what its EVs are. At the moment, I'm guessing it's got good EVs in HP, attack, and defense given what we've grinded against like Wurmple, Poochyena, and Silcoon or Cascoon, but who knows. Upon returning the goods to Captain Stern in the Slateport Museum, we're attacked by a couple of Team Aqua Grunts. Here I am thinking, this will be a pushover. We've got Flail and low health after all. But it turns out we were actually out of Flail power points and I hadn't noticed. Then the guy sends out a Carvanha and I'm like, oops. But Tackle is able to take him out, but we do take some damage from its Rough Skin ability. The second grunt also has a Carvanha, but we scrape by. It's definitely time to heal. In the Pokemon Center, one of the guys has this to say. Want a tip for battling? I'd say it's raising all kinds of Pokemon in a balanced manner. It's no good just to make one Pokemon strong. Yeah, okay. Proving this guy wrong is now going to be the motivation I need to get me through this run at all costs. Let's do this. Next, we grind our way through routes 103 and Route 110 where the cycling road is. Along the way, we find a Pee-Pee-Up, which I actually feel is going to come in very handy, perhaps for something like Flail. The rest of the route goes pretty smoothly, aside from an Aeron I just couldn't beat and a Magnemite which proved troublesome. We've officially made it to Mauville City, where judging by that Magnemite, I'm actually kind of scared for our next gym challenge. We acquire the bike and the Rock Smash HM, and I decide to take out as many trainers as I can outside of Mauville for extra XP. After beating the rest of the available trainers to get us to level 42, we finally make our way to the Mauville Gym, where it turns out Wally wants to prove to his uncle that he is strong enough to challenge it. So he tries to battle us. Little did he know, we had 7 HP. After dealing with some tough super effective electric types, paralysis, and strange electric type gym leader choices like Illumise, Volbeat, and Metatite, I don't know what that's all about, we make it to gym leader Wattson, and I'm not healing to take advantage of Flail. Bad choice. His Voltorb survives on like 1 HP and we get killed by a super effective Shockwave. Our second challenge is perhaps even worse, as we go in with full health but get paralyzed, he uses a super potion, then we can't move and get killed very quickly. Oh boy, I now realize that we're definitely not over leveled for this. Our third challenge goes better as we take out the Voltorb without any paralysis. We also take out his Electrike, however its static ability manages to paralyze us upon being KO'd. And then he sends in a Magneton which outspeeds and absolutely decimates us. It seems that our only hope is not getting paralyzed at all by the time his Magneton comes in. A Steel and Electric type is our absolute worst nightmare. All of our moves are resisted by Steel, and Electric is super effective against us. 4 failed attempts later and I realized something. We're super close to being able to 2-hit KO the Voltorb, which would allow us to avoid taking so much damage since Wattson wouldn't be able to use the super potion on it. So I decide to spend about 40 minutes grinding in the wild to get to level 45 to try again. Our new plan works very well thanks to a crit on Electrike, however we get paralyzed from static again. I noticed that if we do have good health, Magneton doesn't immediately go for the Shockwave. I try over and over and over and it just does not work out. I grind further to level 50 and still can't get it. I grind to level 52 and it's not happening. The grinding is incredibly slow and we've tried to beat Wattson like 25 times now. I rack my brain for some way to beat this guy. I explore every area and then remember something I haven't checked yet. The game corner. Is it possible they might have a TM that we can use? There it is, TM13 Ice Beam. Magneton's special defense is certainly weaker than its defense, so maybe that might be an option. Plus, we can try to freeze it. However, it costs 4,000 coins and 500 coins cost $10,000. There's no way. We just don't have near enough. Wait a minute. TM32 is 1,500 coins. What is that? I research and find out it's Double Team, which Feebas can learn. Perfect. I sell every damn possible thing I can in my bag, get the coins, and we come up short. Time to hit the slots. I spend an hour and a half in here, and after 2 lucky jackpots, we reach the 1,500 mark. I teach Double Team to Feebas and hope to God that this will make this run possible. Notably, Shockwave can't miss us no matter what, even if its accuracy is lowered. It hits every time. But what I'm hoping is that we can make sure we don't get paralyzed at all from Thunder Wave, which has 90% accuracy. This strategy actually works. The Magneton can't get Thunder Wave on us, and we end up being able to finally take it out. His Manectric paralyzes us with its static ability though, and then outspeeds us for a Shockwave hit, but we survive at 13 HP, break through paralysis to hit it with a massive power flail to end the battle. We finally beat Wattson. My god, that very well might have been the hardest gym battle I've had in my life. At last, getting to move on and travel through the routes north of Mauville, we get to Fall Arbor Town with just 9 HP. After reaching the peak of Mount Chimney, we challenge the Team Magma boss Maxie, and his Mightyena's Intimidate lowers our attack, which actually makes this battle much more difficult than I was expecting, especially since we can't switch out into anything to get rid of that attack drop. We do get a crit on his camera up though, otherwise it's very possible we could have lost here. After a long grind down the mountain all the way to level 58, we finally reach Lava Ridge Town with 20 HP to spare. Flannery's gym itself is quite a hassle, but we make it to her just fine. I actually thought this battle might be fairly easy, but to my surprise, her Pokemon are quite bulky and we end up losing to a Body Slam that paralyzes us and costs us the battle. The second challenge goes much more smoothly, especially since we're now starting with full health. We get a very fortunate crit on the Slugma and a crit on the Camerupt after Flannery uses a Hyper Potion on it. Her Torkoal is absolutely beastly, but we don't get paralyzed from any of the 3 Body Slams and are able to take it out on the last turn since it uses Sunny Day instead. 4th gym badge down. This is honestly way further than I thought we'd get, and I'm starting to wonder just what is possible. May then tells us that it's time to face our father for our 5th gym badge, and I am absolutely petrified knowing what lies ahead. Especially after this gym battle, I'm really wishing we had found the Water Pulse TM by now, but thankfully we are very close to being able to get the Surf HM, which should prove very useful. Now at level 60, we head back to Petalburg to face Norman, our father, and his normal type gym. The trainers aren't too terrible, and we end up with 3 HP, which allows us to OHKO the final trainer with Flail. Feeling risky, I decide to challenge Norman with 3 HP just for the hell of it in case we can pull something off with Flail. Amazingly, we actually OHKO his first 3 Pokemon and bring his Slaking below half, but that's about all we can accomplish. So close yet so far. This means we're gonna have to go on with full health. This time around, we have a super lucky run with several critical hits, and we end up at the Slaking with 31 HP. I was really hoping that we'd survive the Facade because that would mean that we could get 2 hits off in a row before he hits us next due to his Truant ability that only lets it attack once every 2 turns, even despite its Citrus Berry. However, the Facade does take us out. For reference, Slaking has a 670 base stat total, which is the same as Groudon and Kyogre. I try again and fail pretty miserably, so the next time I decide to basically allow myself to be weakened as much as possible and then hope for the crit on Slaking. Amazingly enough, I do get the crit, but even then it's just barely not enough to take him out. Looks like some grinding is going to be necessary here. I bring Karen to level 63 and hope that that is enough. His Spinda absolutely wrecks me with confusion, so I said, hey, I guess we're doing the low health, hope for a crit method again. I make it to the Slaking, and no way, a crit, but it survives on literally 1 HP. At this point, I'm furious, and I put the game down for the day. The next day, I come back, and I'm like, I cannot psychologically take any more grinding. I'm going to use this low health method and hope for a high roll crit, and at least in the meantime we'll be using the most effective way to grind by killing these high level Pokemon. On the 5th or 6th time, I actually take no damage from the Spinda and little damage from the next 2 despite the Linoon scaring me with Belly Drum. We make it to the Slaking again with pretty high health, and just when I finally think I've got it, it lives on 1 HP again. The next time I go back to the low health method, make it to the Slaking, and oh my god, that looks like a crit. Yes, yes, yes. We did it. 5th gym badge. You, Dad. We now get Surf from Wally's dad. Our rival challenges us immediately afterwards, and with Surf it proves to be quite an easy battle, and I'm finally starting to feel good about our prospects for this challenge. You were worried, May? About our training? Whatever for. We arrive in Fortree City, and upon depositing our cast form, I realize it's actually holding a Mystic Water item which raises the power of Water-type moves. That might actually prove quite useful, and it's a damn good thing I didn't miss it. Making our way into the Fortree Gym, we immediately encounter a trainer with a Skarmory, which I realize might not have been possible to beat without Surf. I am so glad we got that HM. The rest of the gym is relatively easy to get through aside from one Tropius, which manages to take us out, and we arrive at our 5th gym challenge, the Flying-type gym leader, Winona. I had been heavily debating whether or not to teach Karen Ice Beam since Flail at max health only does 20 damage, whereas Tackle does 35 no matter what. I figured I might as well get rid of Double Team instead, since I do have another TM for it if we end up needing it for the Elite Four. But again, I want to avoid using it at least until then to add some extra difficulty to this challenge. Thanks to a combination of Surf and Ice Beam, a Lucky Freeze on Winelda's Pelipper, and Skarmory's Sand Attack not affecting us as much as it could have, we actually managed the gym battle pretty well with a one-hit KO on Altaria to win our next gym badge. Feebas has actually become scarily powerful, but I'm certainly not underestimating what's to come. Before setting off to our next challenge, I decide that we might as well get the final versions of HM slaves that we need to replace Butler. Sorry, Butler. I go to Route 120 to catch a Meryl, which will be named Peekaboo. I just forgot to nickname him, but don't worry, we'll fix it. And back to Route 119 to catch a Tropius, which we nickname Neck Bananas, because she's got bananas on her neck. Tropius and Meryl are arguably the best HM slave combination in the game since they cover all 8 HMs. But first, back to Slateport to nickname Meryl. This is of utmost importance. Look, this glorious name change even made it on the TV. I kid you not. And see, how would we have gotten this elusive rare candy without our Lord and Savior Neck Banana's supreme power? Okay, I think I'm losing my mind. After some Team Aqua nonsense, a rival battle in which we find out May has been trying to harness the power of the almighty Neck Bananas.
And his name is John C.
And some Team Magma nonsense we pull through at the end. What is the point of this? Ooh, a Master Ball. After painstakingly making our way through the entire labyrinth of a gym in Mossdeep, it turns out Tate and Liza actually require that challenging trainers have 2 Pokemon, and I only brought Feebas. So I go all the way back to the Pokemon Center, bring our weakest Pokemon, Butler, and make my way through the entire gym again, which just has to reset every time. Now heading into this battle, I figured it might be quite easy since I only remembered that they had Solrock and Lunatone in Ruby and Sapphire, so I figured I could just use Surf and be done with it. But as it turns out, in Emerald they also have a Xatu and Claydol, and from crits to Xatu using Sunny Day to weaken Surf's power, etc., we get absolutely demolished. Oh boy, here we go again. Since Xatu is the culprit using Sunny Day, I decide to try to take it out with Ice Beam before it can, and we get it down to an HP level where I figure we might as well use Surf so that we can take it out and get some damage off on the Claydol. But the Xatu survives on 1 HP and hits me with a Confuse Ray, causing me to lose yet again. Alright, no mercy for that Xatu next time. The next time we're able to take out the Xatu with 2 Ice Beams, but they send in Solrock and apparently it also has Sunny Day. I'm thinking we might still be able to pull this off, but suddenly it blasts a 1-turn Solar Beam at us and it has a Citrus Berry. Yep, this challenge is going to be way harder than I thought. During this battle, I made 2 observations. 1, we can almost take out that Xatu with 1 Ice Beam and then a Surf, which would be really helpful for doing damage to Claydol instead of just attacking Xatu only. 2, we can almost 2-hit KO Claydol with Surf, which would be very useful. So I decide to grind out 1 more level so we can hopefully accomplish these 2 things. It absolutely astounds me that we could be at level 81 before the 7th gym and still require more levels. Even after this, we fail another time, and I challenge them again just hoping things will somehow go smoothly. After debating what move I should use on the second turn, I go for Ice Beam on Xatu since I know we brought it down to where they're going to use a Hyper Potion on it. Amazingly, we get a freeze on the Xatu, but I'm still skeptical if we can even pull this off. They yet again use a Hyper Potion on Xatu, and I decide to go for an Ice Beam on Claydol, thinking that I don't want to bring out the Solrock yet, so I'll keep the frozen Xatu out there. I use Surf next to take out the Claydol, Xatu stays frozen, and then we get a crit on the Solrock to 1-hit KO it. Oh my god. Xatu stays frozen, I go for a Surf, and it does less than half on the Lunatone. Xatu then goes for Psychic, but we live ever so slightly, and I'm like, this is it. But then Lunatone uses Calm Mind. They use yet another Hyper Potion on Xatu to bring it to full health, then I go for the Ice Beam on the Lunatone on a whim, and it crits. Dear lord, this might be possible. I now have to rely on a max power flail to take this Xatu out, and it does. Unbelievable. This one was a huge struggle when I thought it was going to be easy. After meeting Wallace and picking up Rayquaza from the Sky Pillar, we return to Sootopolis to quell the fighting between Groudon and Kyogre.
My sons, stop this fighting now. Thank you.
And with that, it's time to take our final gym challenge against Wallace's mentor, Hoenn, a Water-type gym leader. Now this gym having water types is a bit concerning, but at the same time sort of a relief. We won't be able to damage them a whole lot with stab, but at the same time they shouldn't really be able to damage us that much either. I'm able to get through the gym's puzzle with no problem, meaning we don't have to face any of the gym's trainers.
Big brain plays right here.
Hoenn first sends out a love disc, which confuses me and then causes me some serious problems. Luckily we get a crit on the Whiscash with Surf, but then his Celio uses Body Slam and paralyzes us, costing us the match. Before we try again, I switch out to the Mystic Water item on Karen for the Silk Scarf, hoping that our tackle and flail damage can pull us through. Our rematch goes smoothly to begin with, and in fact I'm actually hoping Love Disc will do some damage on us so we can get Flail's damage up. We make it past the Whiscash and the Celio without any paralysis, which is much needed. Next he sends out a Crawdaunt, which I'm actually terrified of because this thing could definitely take us out with some dark type stab damage, but thankfully we actually got a crit. Kingdra is Hoenn's final Pokemon, and I figured we wouldn't do much against it, and I was right, and it starts using Double Team. Luckily it doesn't affect us and it hits us with an Ice Beam, but we survive and are able to take it out with a supercharged Flail. We have officially beaten all 8 gyms with just a Feebas. I am awestruck at this thing's capabilities. And with that, it's time to make our way to the final challenge, the Elite Four. In Victory Road, we encounter Wally, who I'm quite confident we can beat. We one-shot his Altaria with Ice Beam, but then he sends out a Magneton. Instantly, the flashbacks occur. I can't go on. I can't do it. But I must. For Karen. We use Surf and it nearly takes the damn thing out, and I'm like, where was this HM when I needed it against Wattson? But then, Wally uses Thunderbolt and it does significant damage, and then paralyzes us. He then uses a full restore, we get another Surf off, and I'm like, okay, if we survive this Thunderbolt, which we should, and then get another Surf off, we're okay. But then, after all of this, he crits us. I want to cry. Several attempts later, after dealing with his Delcatty putting us to sleep, his Rosalia using Leech Seed, which we can't get rid of because we can't switch out, and his Gardevoir using Double Team repeatedly, and we beat Wally. Good riddance, kid. The rest of Victory Road went relatively smoothly aside from one time when I ran out of power points on both Surf and Ice Beam against a Sableye, meaning I had nothing else I could use against it and had to lose and go through the entire place again. After a perilous journey, we finally reached the Elite Four, and I'm kind of sitting here like, lol, what do I do? I figure since we're likely going to be challenging quite a few times, we're going to lose all our money, so I should stock up on elixirs now while we have the chance, and not use them until I get a sense of our strategy. I also figure we might as well use all our PP Max and PP Ups now too. I then deposit our HM slaves for the last time, giving a kiss to both Neck Bananas and Peekaboo for their service. And with that, it's time to see what hopes we have. Sydney, the Dark-type Elite Four member, starts off with a Mightyena, which immediately intimidates us and then uses Sand Attack to lower our accuracy. We're able to take it out, but then immediately lose to his Cacturn due to a flinch. Man oh man, there are a lot of non-damaging factors that we have to keep in mind here. The second time we face him, we manage to take out his Mightyena and Cacturn, but that Sand Attack from the Mightyena is absolutely killing us here. I decide now is the time to use the rare candies we've gathered on our journey, since we need to take out that Mightyena as soon as possible. I decide to save the last rare candy for if we need it to go from level 99 to level 100, because the next level isn't going to give us any special attack stat boosts anyway. After a few more attempts, I realize that this Mightyena is not going to go down from one attack, and his Sand Attack is making this battle absolutely impossible. Even at level 100, I don't think it'll happen. But then, when thinking about our stats, an idea springs to mind. Remember earlier in the run when I said our EVs were maxed since we got an effort ribbon? And we could assume that based on what we grinded against that our EVs were loaded primarily into HP, attack, and defense? Our special attack EVs are probably really low, if we even have any. In Emerald, berries were introduced that could actually lower your EVs by 10 per berry. Even though we didn't purposefully train EVs, and that was kind of impossible given our struggle scenario earlier on, we could at the very least get a few more in special attack to try and take this thing out in one hit, since there were no early game mons from which we could get these types of EVs. It'll be a lot of work, but it might be worth it, and now is our last chance since it's nearly impossible to get EVs after you reach level 100. Because HP and attack are important for Feebas, I decide to try and lower its defenses using berries, and luckily along the way we've picked up 8 Qualot berries and 8 Greppa berries, which lower defense and special defense respectively. I'm able to use all 8 of the Qualot berries, but only one of the Greppa berries, telling us as I thought that we had a lot of defense EVs, but almost none in special defense. I then head to Route 113 since it's full of Slugma and Spinda that give special attack EVs. After a ton of grinding, we reach level 99 and then 100, and it seems we should now have something like 80 special attack EVs, which is exactly what you'd expect if we had been getting them randomly, with at least some Pokemon giving them when we were grinding. It's time to give this a try once more. This is now the very best that we can do. Our strategy seems to have worked out quite well, as we're able to now one-hit KO the Mightyena with Surf, the Cacturne and his Shiftry with Ice Beam, but then his Crawdaunt eats up an Ice Beam quite well. He uses Swords Dance, and I decide to go for Tackle since Crawdaunt resists both Surf and Ice Beam, and we get a crit which unfortunately triggers Sydney using a full restore on it. Unbelievably though, I get a crit and freeze on Ice Beam, allowing us to take it out. That was scary. He then sends out his final Pokemon, an Absol, which we're able to take out with Surf. First Elite Four member down, and he is definitely more manageable now. Next up is the Ghost-type Elite Four member Phoebe. She sends out a Dusclops which spams Protect, and then we get a crit on Surf which takes it out. Her Banette also goes down to 1 Surf, but then she sends out another Banette that survives one. Weird. She uses a full restore on it, meaning we're able to take it down with 2 consecutive Surfs. Her Sableye barely survives a Surf and hits us with a crit Shadow Ball. She uses a full restore, then we crit and one-shot it. Her final Pokemon gets hit really hard with Surf, and thankfully it misses its Rock Slide so we can hit it again, but its Citrus Berry saves it and takes us out with a Shadow Ball. Our next attempt through goes better though, and we beat Phoebe with just 19 HP. Next up is a trainer I was absolutely terrified for. Glacia, the Ice-type Elite Four member. She has 3 Pokemon that wall the absolute hell out of us. Not really knowing what I should do against her, I try to just surf through her first Celio, but it uses Body Slam and paralyzes us. Thankfully, through researching her team, I prepared in advance and put a Lumberry on Feebas, allowing it to be cured. I get a crit on Surf and take out the Celio, and she sends out a Glalie. We 2-hit KO it with Surf, but I noticed that this hail damage is doing a number on us. Her next Celio does some major damage on us, but that allows us to use Flail to take it out. I thought that this would be where we lose, but incredibly we take out the Glalie with a crit Flail, bringing us to her last Pokemon, her Walrein. The hail brings us down to a max power Flail, and I cross my fingers and go for it, but it can't take that thing out and we lose yet again. One more run through the Elite Four and we come to Glacia again, and this time I decide that putting the double team TM on Karen again is going to be necessary due to the hail damage, which itself is a struggle for us for so many turns. This makes her second Glalie miss its Ice Beam, Glacia uses a full restore on it, then we take it out with a max power Flail. But I thought that we would inevitably die to the hail right then and there. Miraculously, the hail stops right before we die, we hit a max power Flail, Walrein misses Ice Beam, and then we can finally beat it to take her out. That was so damn close. Next up is the Dragon Elite Four member Drake. Honestly, Ice Beam made this quite an easy battle. We OHKO everything but Kingdra, which is a bit of a hassle, but we make it through and OHKO his Flygon and Salamence to take the battle. It's now time for the champion, Wallace. I already thought Glacia was impossible, so this is going to be something else entirely, and I know we'll need to make use of Double Team. Wallace is indeed a huge struggle, even with Double Team. His Wailord is so tanky and would keep hitting Double Edge even after we boost our evasion. Pretty much everything he has also survives through anything we can throw at it, even a max power Flail. After 3 losses to him and having to redo the entire Elite Four, I start to have what looks like a promising run. I get our evasion up, his Wailord hits a Double Edge and then uses Rain Dance, which is actually going to help boost our Surf power in addition to Stab and the Mystic Water item. It hits another Double Edge, but then I make a risky play and go for a 3rd Double Team. Wailord misses, and then I can take it out with a Surf at 76 HP. He then sends out a Ludicolo, which is basically the perfect counter for Feebas, and I go for another Double Team, but then his Ludicolo starts using Double Team. I hit Flail and it does basically nothing. I go for Ice Beam and it does around the same, and he's stacking up Double Teams like a madman. He then hits a Giga Drain and I'm like, well, this is over, but we survive on 3 HP and take him out with a max power Flail. This is it. Such high evasion and max Flail. If this was ever going to happen, it has to be now. Our Flail fails to take out his Tentacruel and he uses a full restore, but thankfully the second one takes him out. He then sends out his Milotic, our evolved form that we just can't have access to for some reason. We hit Flail, it misses Surf, and then we take it out. He sends out a Whiscash, and our Flail doesn't kill it, but he misses his Earthquake and heals. We need to have him miss another 100% accuracy Earthquake if this is to succeed, which I'm severely doubting, but then we crit the Flail and OHKO him. Oh my god. His last Pokemon is a beastly Gyarados, which has Intimidate to lower our attack. I go for one more double team just in case, use Flail and it does a bit more than half, then he misses Earthquake, and we hit another Flail to take the match. Holy absolute we became the champion with a Feebas. While we celebrate and have our singular Feebas appear on the Hall of Fame screen, god is that ever funny, something looms in the back of my mind. This isn't over quite yet. Yes, we beat the game, but there's a bonus challenge in Emerald that a lot of people don't know about, and I think we should try it out just for the heck of it. Our destination is Meteor Falls, and at the very end of the cave system stands a singular man. The former champion of Hoenn in Ruby and Sapphire, Steven. It's time for our final challenge, a post-game battle with the true strongest trainer in Hoenn. Steven's Pokemon are all in the upper 70s, and of course he just has to specialize in the Steel type, which resists 2 out of 3 of our moves and is hit neutrally by the 3rd. I'm not gonna lie, I tried this battle a lot. I think 11 times in total, meaning traveling all the way back through Meteor Falls again. The main problem is that we can't set up double teams effectively at any point since his Skarmory knows Aerial Ace, which always hits since it's not affected by changes in accuracy. In my very best out of these 11 runs, by being extremely strategic and miraculously lucky, I took out his Skarmory, his Aggron, his Cradily, and his Claydol. Then at the Metagross, I kept having to use Flail to nudge down his HP so he was within kill range of a 4th Surf after his Citrus Berry went off. Otherwise, Steven uses like 3 full restores on a row on this thing if he has to, meaning that you have to evade like 8 Earthquakes in a row. I survived one of his Earthquakes by 1 HP, used Surf and brought him down to literally 1 HP as well, and then he uses Meteor Mash to finish us off. I kid you not, this was such a fortunate and lucky run. Between the typing of his Pokemon, his Skarmory preventing double teams with Aerial Ace, his Cradily with Ingrain and Giga Drain being so difficult to take down, and his Metagross's high accuracy and infinite full restores, I couldn't do it. I'd have to be so unfathomably and impossibly lucky to finish this battle, since he also has an Armaldo waiting for us after the Metagross. I'm sure if one had a perfect IV and fully EV trained Feebas, it would be possible, but with our random IV and EV rule set, it was just not gonna happen. Nonetheless, we beat the damn game with a Feebas, which is way beyond what I could have ever imagined, so you know what? I'm gonna take this loss proudly. Karen, you are an absolute legend, and it was an honor to battle by your side. Well, there you have it, folks. I hope you guys enjoyed this journey as much as I did. This was absolutely insane and borderline not fun at points, but hey, I did have a lot of fun during most parts of it, and I'm happy that I can share it with all of you. If you did enjoy this challenge, please be sure to let me know by leaving a like and commenting a favorite moment of yours down below, or any other challenges that you'd like to see me do. Both likes and comments help a ton with the YouTube algorithm, so I'd be super appreciative if you guys could do this for me if you enjoyed this challenge. Don't forget to subscribe and click that bell to turn notifications on so you're ready for the next one. Thank you all for watching. This has been Soul Spectre, and I'll see you guys next time for some more Pokemon content.